In this video, I'm just going to go over US30 chart, analyze the chart, show you guys what we're working with going into next week. Obviously, this week's about to end. I'm recording this on Friday, so I thought maybe be a little bit productive and show you guys what we're working with this week. So, first things first, I'm just going to give you guys a quick update on my funded next account. Um, I've been trading this funded account for quite some time now. Well, not really quite some time, since the beginning of this week, and it's been a good week to be fair. On the account, I'm at about 7.5%, which is lovely. I've only had 5 trading days. Um, it's been a bit it's fluctuated a little bit throughout the week, but profitability usually is like that. So let's talk a little bit about the week we've had trading. So first things first, US30, I can finally stop saying we're trading in a range, but I'm gonna still mark it out. The US30 chart has been trading in a range, and we managed to break out of the range um, at the beginning of April. And when we broke out of the range, we had a massive stock market collapse, which I'd been calling for. When you break out of a range, when you break in and you retest the range, it's usually met with quite an aggressive sell-off. So we've had our massive sell-off. Price pulled back to one of our fair value gaps and swept liquidity, which was lovely. We came back into this gap right here, which was lovely. Price held the gap, swept liquidity underneath the gap, which I'm going to show you guys where the liquidity was resting. Liquidity was resting right here. We swept the liquidity, filled the gap, and buyers started to get in long. I took a trade here. If you saw my prior video, I took a trade, but I didn't hold it. It's fine, no, these things happen. So this week, price is pushing up back to the top of the range. So where we're going to be looking at price next week, I'm going to be looking at this volume imbalance right here, which is a gap in price. Mainly because we need to see if price is capable of getting back into the range. And if we're not able of getting back into the range, then we're going to retarget the lows. But at this current moment in time, price is trading in an uptrend and it's targeting the low of the range, so we should reach this next week. When we do reach the top, the bottom of the range, we're going to need to watch what price does at this volume imbalance, because if we're unable to get back into the range, then we're most likely going to retest the lows and continue a further decline. I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about the week that we had. So obviously this is the weekly chart that I've changed onto, and we had a massive decline last week, which was expected. We swept liquidity at the lows. Now price is attempting to rally back into the high of the range. So there's two things that can happen in regards to this. We can see a retest of the range, and we can see a continuation down, or we can see price break into the range, rally higher, and target the liquidity resting at the highs. There's a few things that will determine what happens here. The first thing that's the first thing that's going to determine it is policy. So that includes monetary policy, that includes fundamental data. So we're going to be paying attention to the news that we've got next week. I'm just going to quickly jump onto Forex Factory and try and figure out what news we've got coming up next week. So next week is going to be recommencing 14th of April. We've got core retail sales, relatively important, and we've got unemployment claim. So next week is going to be a quiet week. The fact that we're in an uptrend on the daily chart tells me that price could continue higher. If we take a look at the weekly chart, our moving averages are still in a bullish position, so we can see price continue to rally aggressively. And if we take a look at the monthly chart, we've got 19 days until the month ends. So what we'll need to see is whether or not price can push higher and get this monthly chart to close green. If we do get a green monthly candle close, then we can expect price to be extremely bullish. However, we'll have to get through a few hurdles first. And as I mentioned already, we've got our volume imbalance right at the low of the range. So we're going to need to monitor this area and see if we can get above it. But if price was to fall into a further bear market, I'll be looking at the weekly chart. I'll be looking at the moving averages on the weekly chart to see whether or not we get a spike here. So if we get a candle close, something like this, towards the end of next week, we can expect price to retest the lows and potentially go lower. And if this does happen, this is going to be extremely bad for the markets, because now we'll be targeting further low levels, which include this fair value gap right here. And we'll also be looking at targeting the liquidity resting here, and that's weekly chart liquidity. So this is the potential area we could get into if price does continue bearish next week. If this is just a bear market rally this week, we can see price continue all the way down. I'm not really too sure, how I'm understanding the markets. I'm not really sure what to make of the markets at the moment in regards to the long-term move. Obviously, this is a nice rally into the week, but for me personally, we've already presented a structure shift on the down on the weekly time frame. So there's a chance, price does get back into the range, but I think I'm probably like 60% in favor of a further decline, and maybe 40% in favor of a rally back into the range. But nevertheless, I'm still going to be trading the account, still going to be following my rules, trading the signals. And once again, I'm going to show you guys what this account looks like. I'm on 7% for the week, just 5 trading days, and it's been a relatively simple, straightforward week. If we take a look at the win rate on this account, it's a bit skewed, but mainly because there's some trades where I've got into multiple entries, and I've had break-even trades that closed you know, in loss even though it was break even. So that kind of skews the results. But in general, I've had quite a bullish, quite a good week in regards to my returns. I haven't lost more than I've wanted to lose, and I haven't. However, there's been opportunities to make more money than I did want to make, and yeah. But this is what the equity curve looks like. It's pretty much a steady upward move. Not really very volatile. This is the type of account you want to look at, and 7% on a week is not too bad. I've still got quite a few weeks to go in regards to when I'm expecting my payout. I believe that my payout is going to be eligible towards the end of the month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce my risk. I've already started implementing a reduced risk, just so I don't end up giving back my profits. But obviously it's a high win rate system, so that's not really a massive issue anyway. Nevertheless, it's been take note here. I hope you enjoyed the video. It's been amazing to trade in the markets over this past few weeks. There's been a lot of volatility, and that's amazing for us traders. Really and truly, I should be on about 125, maybe $130,000 on this account if I follow my system to perfection. But you win some, you lose some. Nevertheless, I'll catch you guys in the next video. It's been Take Note.